Tonight is the final mayoral debate in Superior, and Chuckles and Mayor Brian Lee are making their final cases to the voters. In his closing argument, Chuckles says that 3 things make Superior a great place to live: its strong economy, quality schools, and its natural beauty. The forest is just seconds from everyone's back door. He promises that a Chuckles administration will focus on preserving all of those things by ensuring that the city remains a tourist destination. The tourism keeps the businesses strong, keeps the taxes rolling in, and those taxes ensure that the city has quality schools. He says that as mayor, he will focus on limiting peripheral growth, increasing density within the existing urbanized area, and ensuring that the forest adjacent to the city is preserved by pursuing an urban growth boundary or greenbelt for the city. Mayor Lee then takes the microphone and says that progress is at the center of his campaign. He points to all the new development approved during his tenure, including the beloved Foods Plus, the restaurants and the mall outlots, and the high school athletic fields that were paid for by Heartland Development when the mall was developed. He also reminds the crowd of the thousands of new homes that were approved during his tenure as mayor, homes that have helped keep home prices in check, and the city continues to be prosperous as a result. He then makes 2 announcements. Construction of new beaches along the majority of the Superior waterfront will commence tomorrow. And second, he has leveraged his connections with the US DOT to bring the region's first commercial airport to Superior. There are gasps from the crowd because everyone in the Bay assumed the airport would be located in Evergreen, as it had been planned for years. Further, like the beaches, Mayor Lee says that construction will begin tomorrow on the airport. It's clear that he has a knack for showmanship. The crowd erupts in applause, something the moderator attempts unsuccessfully to quell. Chuckles looks dejected as he leaves the debate stage. He reminds everyone who will listen that the price of the airport is the forest, but no one seems to mind that it will be lost. In this episode, we're going to build this new airport on land directly adjacent to the city. It'll be modest, but it will supercharge the economy of the region. We'll also have beaches along the coast using assets that I put together for Verde Beach. And at the end of the episode, I'll let you know how the election went. And if you would vote for Chuckles, hit the like button. And if you would vote for Mayor Lee, hit the like button for that too, and let me know how you'd vote in the comments. Or drop an emoji representing your vote for the sake of engagement. And like I promised, here's a picture of Banjo. Thanks for the engagement on the previous ones. It really helps increase the reach of the videos. Now without any further ado, let's jump right in. Hello, welcome back to City Planner Plays, where we are building the city of Superior in Nicolet Bay, and we have a good one today. So let's start out by going over today's plan. The focus of today's episode will be building a rural commercial airport. We're going to be building that right about here. This will not be fancy. This is not even a multi-runway airport, but it will be just what this community needs. In addition to building the airport, we're going to be building the beaches right along the coast here. We'll place a number of them, and that'll bring a ton of tourists to the city. We're also going to be building a helicopter depot, and that'll be right alongside the airport, along with bringing transit into the airport. And I'm excited to get started, so let's start laying out the airport. To begin, we're going to add a new road, Airport Road, that will link this highway to this highway, and it's where our main terminal for the airport will be located. We'll turn on our contours so we can respect the topography as we add this road. And before we go any further, I think we need to create our district for the airport, considering that will level most of this land. Now for this district, we need to find our most common height through here. I don't want to pull things up all that much, and I'm thinking that this height along the road is probably our best bet. And my goal here is to have the runway basically coming from back here and exiting this way over the top of the city. And that means that our district will be longest right here. Our terminal will be right about here, and then we'll have airplane storage back in this general area. So I think more or less this will work for us. Now, it always leaves some trees behind. I don't really understand that, but we will certainly get rid of all of those because we don't want any trees in the middle of our airport. And before we go any further, I am going to soften the edge of the terrain here. I am fairly confident that what we've come up with is going to work really well for us. And now we're ready to start laying out our airport, and I want to use a bunch of rural roads for this. There's 2 things I want to accomplish. I was looking at this airport right here, which is actually from the Mackinac area, and one of the things that I thought was really interesting about it is that it was really flanked by all of these dirt roads. So we're going to do something similar to that here. We'll provide access to the hangars, and we'll provide what appears to be some access to some other buildings out in the distance. So I'll begin with that dirt road right along the side here. And I don't know that we actually need to connect this to anything, but I kind of want to. We're going to see how this works for us. And I softened that up, but not too much. This is a dirt road after all in a fairly rural area. We're going to do the exact same thing over here, but this road will likely be a little more important and a little bit more prominent. And one of the reasons I say that is this will also be the road that our parking lot is on. So I'm going to parallel this for just a moment. So we're using our parallel road tool, and I'm going to pop this out maybe 40 meters. And this is basically going to go up the side here. And this is where we'll have access to our helicopters and our hangars. Now I'm going to get this upgraded right away because this is also where our parking lot's going to be. It's going to be very small. This is a small airport after all. And this will be more or less what we have for our parking. So let's add our terminal. We're just gonna go with the classic airport terminal. I've actually never really used this one. I think it's pretty ugly, but it seems kind of fitting for an airport of this size. And we've got that snap perfectly in place. Although I do think I want to shift this over just slightly and maybe center this a bit better. There we go. I don't know that that's perfect, but it's pretty darn good. And then I do think we should make some sort of connection between this dirt road and our parking lot right here. Redundancy is never bad, especially for cases of emergency management. Now I am thinking that we will take a portion of this and try to make it look like maybe not an urban road, but it'll be a paved road. And to do that, I want to use network skins. And I do like this road because it doesn't allow parking along the side of it, so we'll use this one. And basically, I want to get rid of all of the roadway decorations and adjust what's on the side of the road. We can have either gravel or dirt. I think we'll try gravel first. Yeah, that to me looks pretty darn good. In fact, I like this so much, I might go with it for this entire road right here. One thing I do need to fix though is this transition. This looks really, really bad. I'm just gonna add a node right about here and upgrade this. And then hopefully I can just pull this a bit closer. And a node controller, I just set this node to be a middle and now it looks really good. That transition is a ton better in my estimation. And while we're zoomed in this close, let's use our surface painter just to clean up some of the things happening over here with our concrete. Now, one of the things I noticed about Mackinac is that the parking for employees wrapped around the terminal. We're likely going to do that, but I might have to extend the terminal out once we get our aircraft stands in place. So let's begin with that. I think we'll have maybe 3 of them. And with that in place, we can certainly add our parking lots back here now. And I will not lie, seeing this airport in Mackinac did make me wonder if it's fairly common to have an airport with this loose of standards in terms of security. Let me know if you work at an airport or if you're a pilot, let me know if this is unusual or not. And now we need our runway, and I want this to be long. So we're gonna come all the way back to here and basically parallel this road. And now that we have this in place, we can place our taxiway. And I think it makes the most sense to begin our taxiways right here at the end. And I want to make sure that I give enough space here that the wings are not going to clip through if we have a plane taking off and one leaving at the same time. And this is more or less the layout of the airport that I want to go with. Very simple, like I mentioned, but I think it's going to be really effective. Now, one thing that might seem a little odd to you is the circulation that I have going on right here. I decided to have the airplanes that come in actually pass the exit here and then go clockwise through here. The main reason for that is that we are going to have all of our hangars right over here, and I want to be able to have a connection directly into here where those airplanes could go directly into one of these aircraft stands and then leave right away if they wanted to. But before we start building this stuff over here, let's get this thing operational. And for the time being, that means that I'm going to add a transformer right here. And then we'll place some water pipes. And we're going to put these right underneath the road, right where they belong. And now that we have that, this thing should start getting some passengers. I guess we got one more water pipe to add. But this thing should be 100% operational at this point. I did notice that we've got a little bit of a hill right here, so I think we are going to manually adjust this. There we go. That seems a ton more reasonable right there. So now I am going to pave this road out to where our hangars will be. And I don't want to go overboard with these. We'll place maybe 2 of them. And I'm temporarily going to place them on the road because we have Move It. Can select them both and spin them around. And I've been holding down Alt because that gives me the ability to stay within the grid. That is really nice. I'm doing the exact same thing with these parked airplanes, and then I'm going to do something a little bit weird. I'm going to pop into the normal air transport menu, and I want to use the taxiway from the original Sunset Harbor airports. And the reason I want to do this is, number one, they look like taxiways, so I think they'll fit the aesthetic. But the main reason I want to do it is that they are smaller than these taxiways, which I think will make it feel like it's not a part of the main taxiway system. And now I want to basically make it feel like this is connected to this area right here. So we'll use our brand new airport aprons. And I want to use our concrete slabs that we've been using all over the build for other things. I think that we can get something that's a bit narrower and maybe make it seem like it's a part of this road. And I think that's looking pretty darn good. The one thing I am curious about is whether or not this airport is actually going to run. So I think that after we add these water pipes, I am going to let this run for a minute so we can see if we get our first airplane. And after lots of waiting, we finally have planes at the airport, but it was not without some effort. I actually had to completely rotate the directionality of the runway. The problem is I had the planes attempting to land this way, but because we're so close to the edge of the map, it was not possible, and they were landing on the taxiway, kind of in the middle of it instead. But now that I've reversed this around, we have planes taking off and planes landing, which is absolutely excellent because I'd like this airport to get to level 2. The reason for that is we can't actually place fences or our fueling depot without reaching level 2. So to reach level 2, we've got to do two things. First of all, we've named the airport now Nicolet Bay Regional Airport, or NBA, which I love. We have a passenger count of 212. We need to get to 500, and we need our attractiveness score to be 200. We can fudge the attractiveness score, but we can't do much with the passenger count outside of weight. So in the meantime, while we wait for our passenger count to level up, we're going to begin building our beaches. Now for our beaches, we're going to be using the assets that we put together for Verde Beach. We have a few different variants of this asset, one that doesn't have any props, another that has props, some that have paths, and I think we're going to go with the most basic variants of this, some that have beach chairs and some that do not. That said, these assets do require roads, and I don't necessarily want roads going up and down our beach, but we do have the perfect asset in the build. We have these zonable pedestrian paved roads, which are really just paths that have zoning. These are the same ones that we used over on Marquette Island, and I think they'll be perfect right here. So I'm going to turn all the snap 2s off and attempt to just follow the edge of the sand. And then we'll also need to find a place to end this. So I think we'll make a connection right here with this road, and we'll send this out to here because we've got to add a lighthouse. And because this is a beach and it's kind of tucked behind these homes, I do think we need to add a parking lot. So we'll go with one of these fairly basic parking lots, and then I'll try to tighten up this path against it. And let's add one of these lighthouses before we forget about it. Oh, that is absolutely beautiful. And now we can add in our beaches. And I'll need to have Anarchy on for this because we're placing it in the water. And I'll just place a couple of these kind of at random right now. And now I've placed a few of these, and I'm guessing that some of these aren't necessarily going to work because of how far out they are. So what we'll have to do is actually terraform the beach just a bit. And you can kind of see the assets are supposed to be halfway in the water. So I'm just going to pull the beach up. That was way too strong. We'll pull it up to right about there, reduce our brush size. And then it's just a matter of finding some of these chairs and making sure that they're not in the water. And now I want to clean up the sand a little bit. You can see that some of it is kind of off to the edge, and that's not super reasonable. And then I want to create some minor dunes. So I'm taking the brush size a little bit further down and the strength way, way down so that I can just tap this up a bit and then spread this out. And then we can add some grasses. And for this, I'm going to need to turn Tree Anarchy on and use Move It to actually paste these because we're pasting them on top of an asset. And then I wanted it to seem like these paths are how people get to the beach. So it's some sort of boardwalk. So I'm adding those here. And then we'll finish it up with just a couple of trees. Really, really like the way that this looks. This to me feels a lot more natural. It's much more what I think of when I go to Lake Michigan. So hopefully this looks reasonable. What doesn't look reasonable is all of the vehicles back here. And even though this is a zonable paved pedestrian path, it still allows vehicles by default. So we have to throw some vehicle restrictions on here. And I'm gonna hold down Shift and basically restrict everything. The two exceptions are going to be emergency vehicles and garbage vehicles. Outside of that, I don't think anything else needs to be back here. And that's looking pretty good. And you can see we've got our fully clothed Phillips in the water, so we are in a pretty good place. But this isn't good enough. We've got to do this all the way around here, so I'm going to do that really quickly. And just like magic, we've got beaches all up and down the coast. And I've added them basically from here all the way around to Chuckles Crazy Critter Carnival. So over here, I just simply attach them to the road and people are able to walk in between the homes. I'm thinking of these as private beaches, so I didn't do a lot of detailing in this area. And then over here, I did a couple of things that are special. We've got some city park piers from the Park Life DLC. I was able to add these because these paths are actually roads. So for these piers, you either need it to be in a park district or on a road, and this road works. And over here, I've added a fishing pier, which I think is absolutely fantastic. Same deal, because these are roads, I'm able to place them. And then one thing I figured out is that I can actually use some normal pedestrian paths and just simply connect them to the side of these roads, and they work. So that prevented me from needing to change any of the characteristics of the cars that can drive on here, because it's not actually attached to a road. It is, however, attached to this other path so that garbage trucks can get down here. And I did that by creating a bridge right here. So I extended this out a little ways and dropped this down. This actually makes it more like the real Mackinac Bridge. So I think that it works really, really nicely. So a lot of terraforming to make this work, but we've got people in the water up and down the coast. And I think that this is exactly the vision that Mayoral had for this area. One other thing, I did attach paths to each of the hotels along the water, and I do think it looks a lot better. I don't know that they're actually functioning in any specific way, but sometimes you just have to do things that look good. And now that our beach is complete, let's return to our airport with transit and helicopter connections. This airport is fairly isolated right now, and I really think that we could use some bus connections and taxi connections here. And I also want to add helicopters. Now, I don't use helicopters often, but I think that with Marquette Island out there, there would be a strong demand for some direct connection to the island, and that could be the perfect connection for us here. So let's begin with our transit connections. Those will be fairly simple. We'll just create a new bus route. We'll stop it right here at the airport, and this will go right back to our bus depot over here. We have our first bus here. I just want to take a look at our line details. Yeah, 12 buses is kind of extreme. So maybe we'll take it down to something like 3 and swap these out for our Railroads of Japan commuter buses with 74 capacity. Honestly, we could probably go even less than this, but this is a good starting point. And next, I want to add a taxi stand here so that we can load this place up with taxis. And I'm going to scoot that over to be nice and close to our entryway. Interestingly, there's a couple of parking spots associated with this asset. I'm going to bob those out. And that looks so much better. That's a really bizarre spot for parking on that asset. And then I've been noticing a number of police issues here, and I'm wondering if perhaps we have a solution. And for that solution, I'm thinking of adding one of these police boxes to this area. This is from the Railroads of Japan Content Creator Pack, and I'm going to use this basically as a police service block. I'm just going to slide this inside of the airport, and hopefully this will give us one holding stall and maybe some police coverage out here. And now that we have this done, let's get to work on our helicopters. So our helicopters are found under air transport, and we'll need to place both a depot, which we'll place right about here. That is a spot that respects the topography for the most part. And then we also need helicopter stops, which I'll place right there. And then next to those stops, I do think that we should add some parking. Not a ton. This isn't really a form of super high quality mass transit, so we won't worry too much about that. And then to bridge the power gap over here, I am going to go with another transformer. Maybe bridging the gap's the wrong thing. We're not bridging anything. We're just skipping beyond power. Now, I want these to be the exact same height. So I'm going to pull this right into here, Control H this to the other one, and that should be pretty good. I think I may attempt to remove the fence on the helicopter stop though. And the main reason that I wanted to do this was to make the parking feel like it's more a part of this facility. I think it does the trick. And we can always add an ore industry fence if we'd like to. And there we go. That was probably a lot of work for no reason, but I like the way it looks, and sometimes you just got to do things that make you happy. Now that we have this in place though, we should get it working. And to do that, we need to have a destination. So let's head over to Marquette Island. And here on Marquette Island, I think that we could get rid of one of these warehouse yards. One is 4% full, the other is 6% full, so having two doesn't make a ton of sense. If we really want the number of vehicles that these offer, maybe the solution is actually to have a bigger warehouse. So we'll go with one of these small warehouses, which offers the same number of freight vehicles. And then I did go through Bob and remove the parking spaces associated with this. And now we need to set it up for commercial goods. And I want this to fill so that we're asking for lots of goods from this barge harbor. I want you to hold the barge harbor thought for just a moment. At the end of this section, we're going to return to it because this thing has some serious issues. And now we should be able to fit our helicopter stop. And it fits fairly well, but one of the things that's kind of weird is, again, parking right here, plus we have some landscaping, so we will go into Bob and just remove these. And removing the parking here and the landscaping makes this look a ton better. The interesting thing is that all of these vehicles ended up on this little segment of road. I'm going to ban that as well in TMPE. There's not supposed to be vehicles here anyway, outside of the couple of trash vehicles that we have going around, and that should do the trick getting this ready. And then finally, we need to add a helicopter pathway or this thing will not start functioning. So we'll grab this, and using just angle and our curved road tool, we're going to come up with the perfect helicopter path. And I think that we want this to be kind of interesting. So we'll head over along the coast and then meet up near our airport. I don't want this to go over people's homes. Helicopters are loud, so that is certainly not something that would be super desirable. And then we do need to get helicopters from our depot to our route. So I'll just have one quick connection here, and I think that should work. There's only one way to find out though, and that is to add a helicopter line. So we'll create a new line, and it's just as simple as adding a stop here, adding another stop at Marquette Island, and then finishing the route right here. And with any luck, we'll start to see some helicopters spawning. There they are. And we will have 11 of them on this route. No, we will not. We'll have 2, which seems excessive, but you know, it's the game mechanic. We're going to roll with it. And here we are with our first helicopter route, and it has a beautiful path. We get to see all those new beaches that we put down. This is really special. It's really turning Superior into an interesting place, much more interesting than it was before, at least in my opinion. All right, I guess we should probably get back to Marquette Island to sort out the issues there. Okay, enough of that. The reason why we're taking a look at this stuff is there are some significant problems on Marquette Island, and I've been really struggling to figure out what to do about them, but I think I have some answers. Basically, we've been using the cargo barge mod to try to get goods to the island, and it no longer functions. And it's something that was broken in the most recent and final update to Cities Skylines, which is completely fine. There are other options to make this work. So rather than going with the cargo barges, we're going to add in this small cargo harbor, which is by Bosco 81. Now, one weird thing about this is I just noticed that it doesn't clip to roads very well. So I was able to figure it out by deleting that road, and now we'll use Move It to try to place this appropriately. Okay, that should do the trick for us, and this is a really nice asset. I think this looks really good. It's much more appropriate. It doesn't have the cranes, and that's the main thing that I wanted for some sort of harbor over here. There is going to be one problem here though, and that is we actually don't have a shipping route coming through here. So I'm going to pop in and draw a new one. We'll get rid of our previous route though. This is actually a ferry route, which is why it's not going to work for us. And I switched over to this darker info view, and it is so much easier on the eyes. Highly recommend trying it out if you have Toggle It in your build. But basically, we're back over in Evergreen now, and we'll get rid of this here as well. This will open up new land, and there is the potential that maybe we could figure out some sort of secondary facility through here. So maybe while we're over here, we'll take some liberties. And what I'm going to do is just rotate this around. This is not the height of realism. and I'm going rogue, but we're gonna do it. Basically, I'm thinking we could have a redundant road back here because right now that main arterial is a pinch point. And is this realistic? Yeah, probably not. But reasonably, we're talking about mods and game functionality. It is what it is. Sometimes you've got to just play the game, and that's what we're doing. Now, speaking of just playing the game, here we are, and I was about to draw on a shipping route, but I see that this is already occurring naturally. We do have a ship heading over there. I think it's not enough. So I'm going to create a new shipping route. And truthfully, I'm probably just creating problems. I've noticed that the ships on this map are absolutely crazy, and it's probably my own creation, but I'm just going to keep descending into madness, and we'll see how it works. And honestly, it's working well. We've already got our first cargo ship over here, and it's dropping goods off. So I absolutely adore this small cargo harbor. I'll leave a link to it in the video description if you want to pick it up yourself, but this should save our commercial businesses over here, obviously, except for our corner store. We'll have to reset that one. And I'm going to speed this along to see if things get repaired. Oh, it's a thing of beauty. It's a thing of beauty. Everything is fixed over here. That said, we saw those homes that were abandoned, and I think it's worth checking out why. This abandoned because too much garbage had piled up. So I've given this a lot of consideration because I was really confused about what was going on. And basically our recycling center is going to fill up. We're not processing garbage fast enough. So what I'm going to do is just add a second one of these. Again, not the height of realism what we're about to do, but we have to do something. And I think that having these two recycling centers should get us fixed up. But one of the things I want to test is I'm just going to run this for a moment to see if our garbage reserves here drop down. If they do, that means that we're moving in the right direction. If not, we'll need to come up with something better. And after staring at this for a while, it seems that we're more or less at an equilibrium. And if we look at the other garbage recycling center, it's not operating. That is bizarre. I have no idea why it wouldn't be operating. Okay, I got this thing working, and I think the main problem was that it wasn't connecting to the road. So I had to expand this out just a bit, jiggle things around, and now things appear to be fine. But either way, we are not building up a whole bunch of garbage. I think at one point we must have completely maxed out our garbage reserves, which is why things shut down over here. But that doesn't fix our sad little neighborhood over here. We're gonna have to do that ourselves, so we'll use Move It. We'll just reset these objects, and we should be good to go. More people move into our island, which isn't a bad thing either. And all of these homes, for whatever reason, didn't abandon. I'm going to assume that all of these people threw their garbage into the water and then went and had dinner across the bay. And there's one more thing I realized I didn't do, and that is I want to take a look at how our helicopters are doing at this point. And we can see that there's a bit of a queue here at our main depot by the airport. So I'm going to crank this up 2 more vehicles. That should give us plenty of overhead. And ultimately, indeed, that will clear our queue there. And then we've got to do something about this bus route. We can see that there's a gigantic queue of people up here. There are 200 people waiting. I think 2 vehicles could clear this because we have this empty bus coming here. So I'll add 2 more vehicles. We'll get to 5 buses on this route. And honestly, I think that this is basically perfect equilibrium on this route. We couldn't fine-tune this any better, so we're going to leave it. And with that, we're ready to move on to our landscaping and detailing. Before we can do any of our detailing, we need to see if we've reached level 2 for our airport. And we're still at level 1, but it's because of our attractiveness score, and I know a way to get this leveled up fairly quickly. We'll look at our policies and we'll enable hotel discounts, which will immediately give us 200 extra attractiveness points and get us to level 2. And now we can disable that policy immediately. And again, the reason that we did this is I really want to use the aviation fuel station as well as the fences for the airport's DLC, and those were not available. So now that we have this, I'm just going to send this out right about here. And then we'll need to make sure that we have water to this side as well. And then I want to square up the concrete. And I'm thinking it might actually be nice to use this and pull this back away from the road. And there we go. That looks considerably better in my estimation. Now, I really want a bunch of fences around here to try to make this place feel a bit more controlled. So we'll grab our airport fence, and I'm going to begin right here. We're just going to run this along the side of the airport, straight into it. And then I added these little side fences so that we have nodes there because I want to break this little section right there. And if we search for gates, we have this chain link fence gate. And I want to see how this looks. This might not be the perfect fit here. That's not great, but this new Railroads of Japan paid parking gate, this is pretty darn good. And I'll grab the booth from the toll booths to try to make it look like there's some sort of security here. There we go. I like that a lot. Now we just need to run this all the way around here and have another security setup like that once we get beyond the helicopter depot. And then to finish things up here, I basically want to follow my tree line or where it should be. We're going to need to reestablish some of this. So I'm going to come in at really nice 90s and make this feel nice and orderly and controlled. There we go. So now it is completely encapsulated in this fence. Let's fix our trees back here. That's as simple as going into move it, and we'll move these trees right here and then copy them. And I purposely overshot just a bit so that I could make the trees feel like they're coming right up to the fence. And I really like the way that looks. And now there's a couple of things I want to do that might be kind of weird. First of all, we've got this empty area right here that doesn't seem to have a purpose. And in the Mackinac Airport, one thing I noticed is that they had what appears to be some sort of wastewater treatment facility. I don't want that, but I do want a detention basin so we can maybe get some of the runoff from the considerable amount of pavement here so we could clean it before it ends up in the city drinking water. So we'll lower this just slightly and then level this out. Just momentarily, I see a bunch of animals walking. Yeah, we have a spawn point right here. I'll move that just outside so that we won't have any more animals within here. And then we'll add a water spawn point in here as well. Now, I don't want to reinvent the wheel with this pond. So knowing that we have a pond right here, I think I'm just going to try to steal. So I will take some of the bottom here, Control C it, and now we should be able to just paste this right into this bottom of this pond. And now that we have this in place, we're going to add some grasses around the outside. No trees though. This is an airport and we wouldn't want to deal with any birds in here other than probably red-winged blackbirds, which they're vicious, but hopefully they wouldn't create too many problems in this area. I always just love creating these little ponds. I think they look so neat, but I don't want to stop here. I think there's one thing that I've never added in an airport, but I think would make a lot of sense. One of these weather radars from the Natural Disasters DLC, it seems like this would be a good fit here. So we're going to add this right here, right inside of our gate. And now the airport will be an official spot that checks the weather for this entire region. Now, before we add a bunch of landscaping around our airport, I want to pull back just a little ways to right here. Because oftentimes people will go to an airport and need to spend the night or grab a bite of food. And I think that this would be an excellent place to have a roadside hotel and a diner. So again, we're going to fall back on an old reliable asset, our zonable pedestrian roads. So I want to turn on the contours because we've got some things going on here. We never actually sloped this out, so we'll do that right now. But first, we're going to add a small frontage road right here. And I'm going to lower all of this down to highway level. And then we're going to slope this out as far back as we need to. And that's probably pretty good right there. And now I want to add a hotel right here. So we'll add this little roadside motel. And we'll add one of these roadside diners. And then once again, we'll add some water pipes underneath the road right where they belong. Now this thing's not going to work well. I can tell you that up front. We do not have shopping or offices nearby, so we're just going to bleed money. We can actually resolve this. I don't know if it's worthwhile though. One way that we could do that, we could take the diner and actually convert it from a tourist building into an actual commercial building. We have other diners in the area, so I don't necessarily know that I want to do that, but we do have block services, and I think that's the approach that we'll take here. I'll turn on anarchy, and then I'm going to basically place, we'll save 6 of these. And these are commercial buildings, so they should raise us up a little bit. That got us halfway there. So we'll place 6 more. We're almost all the way there. And then I placed 4 offices there, and that was enough to basically make a profitable hotel. Good enough for me. I think it's silly, but I'm going to play with the game mechanics as I need to. And we'll just tuck those away right inside of the diner. The perfect office. Of course, I moved it too far away, so now I dropped to 79%. We're just going to leave it. We're going to leave it. It's going to be fine. We'll still make a little bit of money. It just won't be perfect. But let's be honest. This isn't the perfect place anyway. There we go. Nothing all that special here. I did have to add some parking into the front. We used this diner over in Couillard Shores and we removed all the parking because we added a parking lot. So that means that we had to add it back over here manually, but not the end of the world. Back to our airport, we're gonna have some fairly modest landscaping. Again, we don't want a crazy number of trees, but we do want some young lindens. And then in honor of the Mackinac Airport, we are going to place one of these nature reserve fences. That's something that I noticed when we were taking a look at that, is that it seems like they had something very similar to this on the side of the road as kind of a decorative piece. And then one thing I'm very curious about in a place like this is the lighting. So we are going to take it tonight. And interestingly, this shows us that the lights that we had on the side of this road stayed here, which was not my intention. So we'll remove the lights and then upgrade these roads. And now that's completely dark. And the reason I wanted to do that is we are going to use some of our airport lights. And I just feel like this kind of fits the overall aesthetic of this place. So we're going to line this up and down the side of the road here. There we go. And I lit all the way around here. Again, I saw that in the Mackinac Airport, and I'm not sure if this is okay to do or not. So again, if you happen to work at an airport, if you are a big aviation nut, if you know something that I don't, please tell me so that I can get this cleaned up. And with that, I think that our airport is complete and our beaches are already detailed. So it's time for us to take inventory of what we've done with a brief city tour. Polls have just closed and the results are in, and they are incredibly conclusive. Mayor Lee wins 4,762 votes to Chuckles 1,815. The voters have spoken and given Mayor Lee 72% of the votes, soundly endorsing his vision for the community. That evening, Chuckles gave his concession speech from his Crazy Critter Carnival.
Friends, I want to thank you for your tireless work attempting to get me elected as your mayor. Unfortunately, we came up short this time, but it wasn't for a lack of effort. We knocked on every door and engaged everyone who would listen, and it wasn't enough. What I've learned is that most people don't share my vision for this community, but I wish Mayor Lee the best of luck.
The loss has Chuckles searching for answers. Is he in the right place? Or does he need to move somewhere else where people have ideals a little more similar to his own? Time will tell. And I hope that you've enjoyed this episode. If you did, please hit the like button. If you're not subscribed to the channel, please consider doing so, and I cannot wait to see you in the next one. Thank you so much for joining me today. Take care. Bye-bye.